This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our new Rumble channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thrilled to announce the release of my new book, Obama's True Legacy: How He Transformed America. There's a reason why Mike Huckabee calls it a ferocious and chilling read. Order it now at Amazon.com or at FrontPageMag.com.
Good evening and welcome back to another episode of the Glazov Gang. I'm your host, Ainaz Annie Cyrus, sitting in for the last time for Dr. Jamie Glazov. Yes, great news. He will be back next week. And I will be joined by a special guest this evening. And believe it or not only he's back by popular demand, but he's also back by the boss request. Jamie Glazov himself asked me if I could have him back on before we wrap up this sitting in for the one and only Dr. Jamie Glazov. And we have a lot to discuss, so I'm just going to dive right in. Riding shotgun with me is Michael Lauber. You are now all familiar with him right here at Glazov Gang. How's it going, Michael?
Oh, just another day in paradise over here, watching living through numerous historical events, whether I want to or not.
Are you tired of it? I am.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's just they keep getting more and more ridiculous. And then at the same time, they start seeming more and more mundane because we're getting used to it right now. These historical failures or other things that have happened that are once in a lifetime events, things that they'll be writing in the history books. But as we're living through them today, we see it, a lot of them being just ignored by our media or swept under the rug.
That one is also becoming norm. Media will hide it, cover it up, twist it, don't even mention it. There are things happening that media is not even mentioning, Michael. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, or they just, again, the sweeping it under the rug as quickly as humanly possible. It might get mentioned for a day or two, but then it's anything they can do to avoid covering it. And it isn't just political events, too. It's things that are happening around the world. It's a sad state of affairs.
Yes, it is. Okay, so let's dive in. Where do we even begin? Wow. Let's begin in my favorite place to begin, Middle East. Supposedly, and I say supposedly, and I will explain why supposedly. Supposedly, Hassan Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, was taken out, dead, powdered. And with that comes the reaction, supposedly, by Hezbollah members, by Hamas members, by pro-Palestinians, and of course, on top of all of that, by Islamic Republic of Iran. Before I talk about what the Iranian media showed as reaction, why don't you tell us what was the reaction you saw here in American media?
Well, they talked about how this guy was had prestige, that he was an Islamic scholar, a peaceful, happy warrior. Again, they cast him in a light that's 180 degrees out of phase with reality. This guy was a monster, a murderer. He preyed on innocent people. He killed his own people in addition to Israelis. Again, this guy is not somebody who should be hailed as a hero or a scholar or anything else, or a proud family man, or any other garbage that they use to try to soften the image of who he really is. It's pure propaganda to try to prop these guys up into some kind of freedom fighting organization, when in reality they are what we all know they are, just more Islamic terrorists.
Yes. But don't forget, that's what they always do. They try to portray Raisi as a moderate. They tried to portray Rafsanjani. When he died, he was named as one of the most influential figures of our modern history. I'm like, yeah, influenced by death. That was his influence. Okay,
Yeah.
let's talk about the reaction in Middle East. So, of course, as soon as I hear the news, what do? Tune in into IRIB, which is Islamic Republic of Iran's broadcast. And of course, at the beginning, there's a hesitation of making any announcements. Then they finally make an announcement. And as I have talked to you behind the scene before, I start paying attention. I'm like, wait a minute. So Israel just took out the number one. And on the parenthesis here, those of you who don't know, Supreme Leader of Islamic Republic of Iran was not number one. Nasrallah was number one of the Islamic movement. He was the number one. Even Khamenei, the supreme leader, would ask him for approval on certain fatwas of jihad. Now, I'm like, okay, so they supposedly just took out the first, but I haven't even heard from the supreme leader. I haven't heard from Pezeshkian being the president Gradually, a few hours later, they come out. And here's what the supreme leader says, Michael. Our heart's broken. The Satan, the big Satan, America, put in the
Yeah.
order. The small Satan took out the attack. So number one, blame comes to America. Somehow Biden regime did it. Biden regime put in the order. Israeli military carried out. We're going to call 3 days completely. The country is going to shut down for 3 days, morning, and we're going to carry on the mission. That was it, Michael. Let me ask you this. When I say supposedly, this is where my supposedly comes from. Can you imagine? Because we all witnessed the reaction of Supreme Leader of Iran after Qasem Soleimani was taken out by Trump. We
Yes.
saw the reaction. Is this a reaction that number one was taken out and the Supreme Leader would show?
It doesn't seem to be like it doesn't seem to match that. Um, it's sort of confusing here from my perspective because on one hand, if he really was taken out, again, this would be a call to arms. There'd be an immediate response, not 3 days of mourning. And then, yeah, I mean, they did fire missiles back at Israel, but I would have expected more than what I've seen. So I don't know. I'm a little confused about what's really going on, especially getting your input and your perspective. I don't think they got him either. 'Cause I think there'd be more to it than what we've seen.
Well, let's talk about the second thing that's making me confused even more. And again, I want to put it out there. Neither myself or Michael not saying he's not dead. We're just saying let's keep an open mind that he may not be dead. That there is no answer. There is no proof of him not being dead, nor is there proof of him being alive. But as journalists, it's our job to bring you the questions that nobody else is bringing to you.
Well,
Second problem, Mike, go ahead.
well, let's keep in mind this wouldn't be the first time that somebody mysteriously rose from the dead after they were declared dead in one of these Islamic terror organizations. Sometimes it's done so they can move them around, hide them. Maybe they were injured, treat them, but it's not the first time they've lied.
Or sometimes because they've become too much of a target. They
Yeah.
need to, let the dust settle so they go in hiding. Okay, second question I have now. This one has nothing to do with Iran's media. It just has with all the reports that came out. Supposedly, report says the only thing left of him was a ring, which was even broken ring. It wasn't attached to a finger, which with Qasem Soleimani it was. And his body was basically ashes. Am I correct?
Yeah. So
But
apparently
then
the ring's made out of the same thing as passports from Saudi Arabia, I guess.
right, and then but here's where my what comes from. How come his body was ashes, turned into ashes, but there was a body found next to him, badly burned, but there was a body for them to identify as one of the IRGC head of IRGC soldiers or high-ranking soldier. What kind of attack was it? If they, it was either left of him and him, or it would be budgeted ashes next to each other. Or am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy. Again, that's like the way things normally work. The this wasn't a this wasn't it was an explosive weapon of some kind used to take them out. It's not like it was the flying Gensu, the Hellfire missiles that are designed just to eliminate a single target like they used on Soleimani. So whoever was next to him, okay, maybe there was more left of the other person than Soleimani, but I still, or sorry, of Nasrallah, but I still have trouble believing one guy would be a pile of ashes and the other one would be a burned corpse. It just doesn't add up. And again, for them to find the ring, if the fire was that hot and burned that fast, wouldn't there wouldn't have been much left of the ring either, or anything that was identifiable. Even getting rid of human bones in a fire takes hours. So I just don't buy it.
Yeah, I'm right there with, again, I'm not saying he's not or he is that. I'm just saying let's ask the proper questions. So if a month from today something major blows up and Nasrallah comes out and says, gotcha, we won't be all like, oh gosh, we thought you're dead. I mean, it's 2024. We've seen worse. With and again, by the way, Michael, we should put this out there. I am guest hosting for anyone out there. We are not being anti-Semites, okay? Don't twist this into we're questioning. Are we questioning the military or the results? Yes, but that doesn't mean we're anti-Semites. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
so
Yeah, like I 100% believe Israel did the strike. We're just not 100% convinced they succeeded. And again, these are good questions that need to be asked. And I'm sure their own people are asking the same questions, even if publicly they're saying they got the target and he was wiped off the face of the earth. They still want real confirmation. And it's exactly like I said, it's because we've heard this story before where they pretend somebody's dead because that is more useful to them at the time than the person pops back up 6 months later.
Yes, and that here's the thing. I posted about this on my honestly, this happened. I think it was the first day I was moving, and like there was no possible way for me to go on air and talk about it. So I put a post on my Facebook and I said, in the middle of my move, we'll cover soon, but there might be a possibility he's alive. And I can't tell you how many comments came through my Facebook. It's like, he's as dead as it gets, he's dead. Here's the proof. Picture of a ring, broken ring. And I'm like, I've seen that frame of ring on at least 200 Muslim men.
Yeah.
Listen, my father had one of them. It's a certain level up, you get one of those. It's a sign of a leadership of Islamic Shia Islamic leadership. But I'm like, we are at a point, Michael. Here's my worry. To be honest, at this point, I don't really care if he is dead or not. And I'll tell you why I don't care. There are 20 more Nasrallahs who were waiting for him to die so they could take over. There were Hezbollah members who called him soft. You do the math. There are those who are waiting to take his place and not be soft and not be a talker and not take action. He was being criticized many times by Houthis. He was criticized by Hamas leaders. He was criticized by Taliban leaders as to he does a lot of talking, but he doesn't take actions. Now, you imagine who's going to replace that guy. So at this point, I don't really care if he's dead or not. But what I do care and what my concern is that we have come to a point as a society, especially here in America. I emphasize Americans have come to a point where the evidence doesn't need to exist. We hate one side and we love the other side so much that the other side can say jump, and the question is how high. And
Yep.
that is scary. It doesn't matter which side of aisle we belong to, left, right, Gaza, Israel, it does matter. It's like as humans, we have stopped using our own sense of understanding, investigation, because we all have it, right? As a kid, why are we curious? Because we're born with that investigative sense. But nobody's doing it anymore, Michael.
Well, yeah, and I guess at the end of the day, the other thing we have to look at is whether he survived or not. They're getting the propaganda victory that they want right now. They're now using this as a call to arms and a call to retaliate. And unfortunately, again, because of our media is so afraid of being called Islamophobic, they're however they respond, our media will say it's appropriate because again, there's this element within the American left here, and the American left controls our media that hates Israel. So if they want to be able to justify Iran's actions as they use their surrogates to continue attacks on Israel, they'll just say, "Oh yeah, this is expected because Israel has struck Nasrallah and killed him, so it's justified."
Exactly. So now since we is there anything else you want to add to this propaganda and possibilities, or you good?
Well, the only thing I was going to mention was something that, I thought was kind of a good thing to come out of this. We were talking about it just before we started filming, was a lot of the Iranians are burning down the posters of Nasrallah. And you said this was related to a podcast or something that went out earlier today. And again, it shows they're not bought into this. They don't want to go die for Iran or die for the regime, and use this as an opportunity to harm more people in Israel. The people aren't having it anymore. They're tired of the violence.
Yes, that's actually exactly where I was going to go with that. Let's be neutral for a minute, Michael. Our audience across any of our platforms and any of our programs, including yours, which guys, you can catch Michael Lauber and Derek Evans on their podcast or program or show. I don't know what to call it anymore. The Insurrection, you can catch them Tuesdays and Fridays on Rumble. So make sure to check them out. They got a great program going. But all across our channels, shows, programs everywhere, our audience know where we stand, me and you. But let's, for sake of journalism, we stop. We don't take a side. We don't belong to any side of the aisle. We're just humans, citizens of Earth.
Sure.
Iran comes and retaliates directly against Israel. Let's break this down. Israel, or military of Israel, goes after Hassan Nasrallah for the reason that Hassan Nasrallah is leading the Islamic army that has directly been attacking Israel and Israelis and killing people. So that makes sense, right? It's called retaliation.
Of
Or
course.
when they go after Hamas. But then Iran shows up, directly attacks. Number one, by so many international laws and so many articles of UN, this should be immediately called a crime because Israel didn't attack Iran. Israel had nothing to do with Iran. Now, what does that have to do with it, right?
Yeah.
Well, why is it not happening? Why is it okay for anyone in any country, in any shape or form, be okay with saying, well, Israel was asking for it because I've heard that online. I've seen that.
Of course. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that don't understand the full picture and aren't taking the reality into account. Everybody knows this isn't really a battle between just Israel and Hamas or Lebanon or whoever, that it's all backed by the funding that, our government unfortunately gave Iran, releasing all this money that's allowed all these attacks. You can thank the Biden-Harris regime for why they have the ability to do what they're doing right now. But it all ties to Iran. Like that's the banker. That's who's also issuing the orders. That's who's procuring the equipment. That's who's logistics, and that's who's also okaying most of these strikes. So, and it isn't just the missiles going into Israel. It's not the 180 plus or minus however many missiles that Iran directly sent into Israel recently. They ordered the Houthis to attack more ships. I believe the last I saw was they'd unsuccessfully attacked two more merchant ships, one carrying oil, and I think the other one was just regular household goods. I could have that wrong. But luckily their attacks were ineffective, but they did hit two ships with multiple rockets or missiles, but luckily these ships were able to evade, no crew was killed. But this is ongoing, and they aren't just attacking Israel. These are vessels flying under foreign flags. I believe one of them was European. I think one of them was ours. But if these kind of things continue, uh, it's going to draw us into a regional conflict, the United States and probably other countries, because they aren't just attacking Israel. But again, that fact is ignored by the bulk of our media here, maybe not so much around the world. But here, I'm sure most people don't even know about the other attacks from the Houthis.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The broadcast or the short clip of 8 minutes you referred to. Let me go over that. No credit goes to me. These were words by this podcaster who is an exiled Iranian singer. I do personally do listen to his songs. He did an 8 minute video and he talked directly to people of Iran, including the soldiers of the military, including the Basijis or low-level soldiers of IRGC. And he asked them the following. He said, number one, what did Israel ever do to the people of Iran? We're not talking Muslims, we're not talking Muhammad, we're talking people of Iran. Israel has never done anything to you. Why are you willing to die fighting an enemy that is not your enemy? Number two, what makes you think your so-called government will be successful in this war when they sent out 200, as of this morning, 200 missiles? 170 got passed through to the border of Israel. Only 20 of them successfully landed or hit the ground. Your government is a joke at this given moment when it comes to comparison of technology, military technology of Israel. Are you going to get yourself all killed? As of right now, Israel hasn't attacked us yet. This is him talking to Iranians. Well, if they decide to attack us, they can take this country and level it within 10 minutes. Stand up and show them you don't support this regime, nor do you support their cause of Allah. Save your lives. And this video, of course, goes viral. It's in Farsi, goes crazy. And that's where a lot of Iranians were like, wait a minute, he's right. Why are we on the streets helping? What does that even have to do with us? Lebanon, Gaza border, Palestine, they have never done, oh, but sorry, he inserted that, what did they do for you that was good, being Lebanon, Hezbollah, Hamas, any of them. So yes, and now, Michael, I want to reach out to my fellow Americans and copy him. Do we not have enough issues inside our country today that we're okay in any side of aisle? Because as Michael brought up, Biden regime is funding all four fronts of this war. And yes, there are four fronts. They are funding Israel, they're funding Iran, IRGC, they're funding Hezbollah, Lebanon, and they're funding Hamas through Palestinian authorities. Do we not have enough pressing issues inside our own country with less than, well, no, exactly 30 days away from election, that we're okay with our regime here in America funding such a disastrous, inhuman war going on in the Middle East? What has become of us?
Yeah, it's not like there wasn't just a giant natural disaster here caused by a hurricane that's left hundreds dead, possibly thousands. We don't know because FEMA doesn't even want you flying private drones over looking for people right now. It's not like we don't have an issue where all FEMA's money instead went to illegal aliens that are currently invading the United States. Now they're too broke to help Americans. Sure, we can send $8 billion to Ukraine, but if you're an American who just lost your house from Helene, well, here's $750 for you if you apply online. Oh, yeah, that's right. You don't have phones or internet. Good luck with that. And to the Iranian people's credit, this isn't the first time we've seen them take a stand against this. Like I remember watching, excuse me, protests before where they would refuse to walk over the Israeli and American flags that were painted on the grounds. They would go around it as to not show the disrespect. So a lot of the people are unfortunately, we've talked about this before. They're basically hostages in this situation that may end up suffering because of their government attacking Israel. When Israel's forced to respond, there's going to be civilian casualties, and I'm sure they don't want to be a part of that, and they don't want to be a part of this war.
Very true. And again, we are still, Marco, far from understanding what tyranny could look like. We're far. I know, we feel like we're feeling it all, but we're far from it. You know what tyranny looks like when you have Iranian people on the streets taking pictures with signs or doing selfie videos saying, asking America and Israel to drop a bomb in the middle of Tehran. That's where
Yes.
they're at. They're asking US and Israel to just drop one of these bombs in middle of Tehran and free us. And they are at a point of give me freedom or give me death in literal situation of life. And are we learning anything from them? I don't know. Are we?
I don't think things have gotten bad enough here yet for people to learn that lesson, unfortunately. I think there's still too many people that are willing to accept the soft tyranny that we're seeing right now, that are willing to even discuss the idea of eliminating the First Amendment or the Second Amendment or the Third or the Fourth Amendment or whatever else the current regime decides is now inconvenient for them expediting their will upon us. Um, Unfortunately, I don't think Americans here really understand what's at stake and what we could lose. A lot of them treat this election just like it's any other election. They don't understand what's really on the line right now, that we really are looking down the barrel of a gun, that this is an election that will determine whether liberty and freedom move forward and this experiment that is the United States continues, or whether it ends and then we slip into tyranny like so many other countries on earth, that we lose our freedoms, our rights that we fought for, that made our country great. And it really, like, that is what allowed us to become a superpower, was unleashing the people. It no longer being top down, whether that was from a monarch or a government or whatever else, that the United States unleashed the people, unleashed our creativity, unleashed our will, our desire to achieve greatness. And without a constitution protecting us from government, because make no mistake about it, that's what the Constitution does. It's there to restrain the ruling class, to restrain our leaders, our government. And if you eliminate those protections, then you'll also eliminate a lot of the innovation and the freedoms and everything else that we enjoy today, that is, when you put the United States in the position that it has, being a superpower, a driving force, creating new technology, building the future that we all want. That all ends if we lose this country.
Absolutely. Well, we have a lot more to talk about, but we do need to take our first or last one and only sponsor break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back.
The My Pillow guy.
And you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took My Pillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented My Pillow to bring you the best pillow in history, My Pillow 2.0. Just like all of you, I never imagined that My Pillow could get any better. That's why I haven't changed it in nearly 20 years. Then I heard about a revolutionary new technology, and I knew I had to bring it to you all. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
The My Pillow 2.0 is cooler and softer than the last My Pillow. It is so comfortable to sleep on at night. I look forward to going to bed, and I wake up well rested in the morning.
Sleep is all about temperature and height. My Pillow 2.0's patented adjustable fill is going to give you the exact individual support you need from your head to your bed. And now here's where it gets even better. We've all experienced those temperature-related sleep interruptions where you get too hot, you toss and turn, you flip your pillow over to the cool side. Well, all that's gone with my brand new My Pillow 2.0 cooling fabric that's made with temperature-regulating thread.
The best sleep just got even better. Whether you have a MyPillow or not, you need to get the brand new MyPillow 2.0. Call or go to mypillow.com now. Use your promo code, and for a limited time when you buy one, you'll get a second one absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
Visit mypillow.com. Welcome back to Glazov Gang. Thank you so much for staying with us until now. And yes, please do support Mike Lindell by going to mypillow.com or mystore.com and make a purchase. You know, I know things are tough, but we all do. I think we're started to look for our Christmas gifts, right? Use promo code GG, that is Glazov Gang, GG21, and you receive plenty of discounts, and we receive credit, and also we get to support Mike Lindell. Before going to our commercial break, Michael, we kind of you perfectly concluded on how if we don't take this election serious, we might as well say goodbye to America. You know, let's talk about this for a minute. I know it's been a couple of days, fine. But I want to talk about something. I want to talk about it. There's so much I want to talk about. Okay, let's talk about this. After I was done watching, and by the way, I haven't had the chance to actually watch the entire full debate, the vice presidential debate, but I watched the highlights. I watched the pretty much midsection. And here's the thing, at this point, the picture in my head of Harris Walz campaign is absolutely the Dumb and Dumber. There is no other way I can look at this poster or campaign by poster. I mean, it's like purposely Kamala went and picked someone dumber. Not that I ever thought there would be someone dumber than her, but well, there we are. There is a guy who's dumber than Kamala, gets on the stage and just gives me that picture. And it's not coming from hatred. I mean it. This guy's dumb.
Oh yeah, he's in way over his head right now. I don't know how this guy got to be governor or in Congress for as long as he has, but he got caught in multiple lies, including by the moderators. We saw a random act of journalism. They actually asked him about lying about being there during Tiananmen Square, and said he just said what was the word? I'm a bonehead, or whatever phrase it was that he used. And he gets things mixed up sometimes. No, this is multiple times now. This guy's been caught lying about his rank in the military, stolen valor, deploying to war zones, lying about being in Tiananmen Square. And those are just the big ones. There's numerous small lies I've seen too. But instead, they want to pretend and fact check Vance. I mean, Vance came off very professional, very, very polite, cool, calm, and collected. He articulated his points well, and he tore Tim Walz to shreds. And he did it all with a smile on his face. I think that's what worries them, especially when they looked at a lot of the focus groups that were watching it. The Frank Luntz focus group, all but two people thought that Vance was the victor, and these were all supposed to be undecided voters. It's become very clear I guess this is the thing. Like, I very clearly feel like our side, Donald Trump, uh, JD Vance, are winning the argument that if it weren't for our dishonest media, and well, that's another perfect example right now. We also just had that James O'Keefe through OMG break their next undercover story, talking to the producer or the executive at MSNBC. He said on air, like, their job right now is whatever the Harris campaign's talking points are for the day, that's what they're going to echo. That their job is to do everything in their power to try to get Harris Walls elected. But we do that, we know exactly where the country is going to go. Right now, she's trying to pretend she hasn't been part of this administration for the last 3.5 years that have run our country into the ground. The debate, I think, really did crystallize it, though, for a lot of people. And I think that's also why we're not seeing it discussed ad nauseum like we did after the Trump-Harris debate. There, they could try to pretend to make the case that Harris won, that somehow it was a better debate. Honestly, I think she did better than I thought she would, but I don't think by any means she eked out a victory. But I just have trouble believing our country is really on this razor's edge right now that has Trump ahead by such a slim margin, considering everything that's going on.
Yeah, agreed. It's not about discussing the debate itself. It's there were so many discoveries from the vice presidential debate. As you know, I still have my reservations when it comes to JD Vance. I don't have one way or another. I'm not against him. I'm not necessarily a fan of him. I'm still waiting.
Yeah.
But on that debate, moments I watched, the duration of time I watched, he definitely got my attention. He got my attention on one, he's so involved. Unlike Kamala, who's standing there claiming that I wasn't part of this. I don't know what's going on. I know. He's so deeply involved, which again, credit to him that I wasn't giving him until this debate. He was very clear on Trump's policies.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't standing there being like, well, I don't bow. I'm just a VP. I don't know. Very clear, very well-versed on what's coming, what will be happening. I enjoyed him respectfully fact check the fact checker.
Yes.
That was definitely credit to him. And I agree, even though he's young, for me, he's even younger than me. Like, I was a little afraid of this debate, knowing Wall's been in this, stage of politics for so long, not necessarily VP, but he's been in it long enough to know how to twist and turn. I was a little worried that he's going to have JD based on the fact that he's very new. It was complete opposite. So the discoveries are what's important. Sometimes, you gotta admit, I'll admit, he earned way more credit on that debate from someone like me than he had before the debate. And on the other hand, Walz scares me now. Not because he's a dangerous person like Kamala, no, because he's flat out dumb. Like, I look at the guy, I'm like, you be the VP and she be the president? It hurts to just think about it. Now, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and the fact that, again, it took till now for you to make that realization because our media here has done such hard work propping up Harris and Walz, ignoring their failures, ignoring the stupid things that they said, or the contradictions, or their lack of policy. Whereas Vance did a very good job staying on message and articulating his points that the current administration and the Harris-Walz administration will not put America first, will not look out for you. And he gave numerous examples, from the invasion at our border to the lack of response in disaster relief, or just the straight up lies that have been told to the American people and contradictions. We don't matter, but we can come up with money for Ukraine, for Israel, for Taiwan, for whoever else needs it. But if you're an American, pretty much forget about it.
Yes, pretty much. And not to get stuck too much on this, situation of the debate or the VP, a lot of time, Michael, in America, they make you think, especially when you're a newbie, meaning you didn't go to school here to learn, actually back in the time of school, because now you don't learn it at a school either. But they make you feel or understand that it's a VP is a nothing. VP doesn't play any role. It's just no business. They're nothing.
Well,
but
that was another thing Vance pointed out there, did a great job of. The VP is the tie-breaking vote if the Senate can't reach agreement. And a lot of these major pieces of legislation that they would now like to ignore, Harris was the tie-breaking vote on them. So the
Exactly.
VP matters.
That's exactly where I was going with this. A lot of people need to realize the VP in the White House may not the one who's using a pen to make executive orders. However, the VP plays a huge role when it comes to our legislation. And if you look at Harris's record, it's not that hard to know where she's going with her plan or where she's going with their plan that she's just a puppet of. I really don't think she has much of a plan of her own. So
Agreed.
gradually it comes back to, yes, this is by far, in my life, at least in America, this is by far the most important election of our time. And this will not be the last, the most important. I promise you that much. And I mean, at least I like to think as long as we're alive, we being, the true Americans who cherish this land and will fight for it, there will be a next election and the next election, Lord willing. But this one right now, in a heartbeat, 30 days is nothing. It's literally a heartbeat. There is a lot to be considered by just us, citizens of America. Now, I want to bring this all back to the beginning. This war in Middle East, Michael, I have heard Americans saying, well, we need to support Israel, no question about it. We need to put Iran in its place once and for all, absolutely. But then let's look at the circumstances. Biden regime isn't going to support Israel. Biden regime is not going to put Iran in its place. If you want to achieve that, here's my solution. Let me know if I'm crazy, Michael. But why don't we concentrate in next 30 days? Get President Trump in the office. Both of those scenarios are going to come true like that.
Yeah, 100%. There's no way Trump is going to allow this funding that the Biden regime continues to leak out to Iran to then, again, make no mistake about it. The money is cash is fungible. So even if they say, oh, we're only spending on humanitarian aid, maybe they technically spent those dollars there, but that freed up other money that then is being used to attack Israel, to attack the United States, to fund these. I mean, they have an assassin team in the U.S. right now. We know about it. That job is to kill President Trump. So yeah, if President Trump gets back in office, a lot of these problems will resolve itself. I firmly believe the war in Ukraine will end too, because Trump's not going to continue to fund what's going on there, at least not the levels we are now. Maybe some humanitarian aid, but when the spigot runs out and there's no more money for weapons, then the killing stops in Ukraine. And that's, as he said, that's what he wants. He wants the dying to end. This isn't a just conflict. There are no heroes in here. There it is, only villains, and then the victims, the people. But I agree. I think the same thing will happen across the Middle East. Israel, part of the problem right now is Biden's soft response. The Democrats are playing a very dangerous game. Unfortunately, a lot of their voters are pro-terrorist. And as long as they can't win an election without those people going to the polls. So they're walking a tightrope right now. They don't want to fully support Israel. They continue to support Hamas, and they continue to hinder Israel's efforts to protect and defend themselves the same way we would protect and defend ourselves. So yes, getting Trump back in office is key. But what really hinges in this election, I think, is our freedom, our identity as Americans. If we don't take care of the 30 million people that have invaded our country, if we don't resolve these other issues that have gone on with our corrupt Justice Department, our own government fighting against the Constitution that's designed to restrain them, then we will not have a country in 4 more years. That's all there is to it.
Yes, and it's that scenario of in 2 days we are coming up on the 1 year anniversary. I shouldn't say anniversary, but it's been 1 year since the inhuman attack of Hamas in Israel happened on October 7th, and it's been a year. Again, I want to be very clear. You all know where my stand is. I mean, there you go. This is where I stand, right?
Yep.
But it's been a year. Okay. Do I believe that the Israeli government has what it takes to put an end to what's going on? I do. Do I think they have their own reasons not to do it? I do. But do I think right now, after a year, there are still hostages who have not been released. after a year, should mine, Ainazani Cyrus's priority to be focusing on 30 days away election or focusing on how we can end the Middle East war? You want to take a guess where my focus is going to be?
Well, I think it's a
Election.
little, yeah. Well, I think one's determinant of the other. I mean, if we don't have this election go the way you and I want it to, I think the war in the Middle East, if anything, it's going to turn into a world conflict, a regional conflict. It's very obvious the people that are pulling the strings for Biden and Harris, the deep state, the perpetual state, whatever you want to call them, they want war. And if they can't get in Ukraine, they'll settle for the Middle East. Because at the end of the day, their buddies at Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and everywhere else, they need blood on the ground. They need to make more weapons, and that's the only way that they're going to get it. And if you're a Democrat that does understand what's really going on, that you're not voting for Kamala Harris, that you're voting for the people that pull her strings behind the scenes, the permanent government. Is that really what you want? Do you really want people making decisions that you don't know their names, that are hiding in the shadows, determining what happens, the fate of our entire nation, and in a lot of ways, the fate of the world? Is that really what you want? Or do you want somebody that's an outsider to come in, make some changes, and bring back about peace? That's the one thing they can't take from Donald Trump is no new wars under his name. He did everything he could to resolve conflict, bring things down, reach out to America's enemies, and they mocked him for it. Whether it was North Korea, the accords he reached in Israel. Sorry, I just blanked on the name of them. Or anything else. He made genuine efforts to make the world a better, safer place. So that's what's on the ballot in November. If it doesn't go the right direction, expect World War III, expect war on multiple fronts, and expect things to get much, much worse here. Expect your rights to disappear, your access to basic things that you want to diminish, because that's the trajectory we're on right now, is a weaker country, a weaker planet, and a worse fate for all of humanity.
Couldn't have said it better, not because your English is better than me, it's because your heart is right on the money. We're almost at the end of the segment. And but I have a couple of questions, Michael. And before we got on, I actually told you I will be asking questions, but I won't tell you what those questions are. I've come to this realization lately that I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but sometimes I feel like maybe I have this different mindset or perspective of situations because I wasn't born and raised here, right? Not excluding myself from being an American, but being coming here as an adult or 18. So if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you some questions. Take as long as you need or as little as you need to answer these. But I want you to give me your American opinion, okay? As someone who was born and raised here. The very first question I want to ask you, what foundation is the United States of America's Constitution built on? The basis?
Well, it's based on natural law, on the rights that we already all possess, and it's the foundation is that it is something, that a document that I believe personally was inspired by God to restrict our government and keep them in their lanes, and keep them from infringing on the natural rights that all human beings possess. The right to their free speech, the right to express their opinion, the right to worship their God the way that they choose, as long as that doesn't negatively impact others. Freedom of the press, freedom of information, the right to self-defense, the right to arms, and then the rest of it is, the protections that we all need to be a functional society. So that's the foundation. Or at least that's the way I see it.
Okay. Now, with that in mind, is there a written or unwritten law that involves separation of church and state?
No, not really. And again, this is a lie that's propagated. If you read through the entire Constitution cover to cover, you're not going to find separation of church and state in there anywhere. It all goes from a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote. And again, the point he's making is valid. He was talking with representatives in Maryland, I believe, that wanted to establish a state religion. And he was saying, no, that can't be part of the government. It can't be a requirement that you are of a certain faith. I want to say that it was a Catholic group that was writing the letter. I could be wrong about that, but or that he was responding to, but that they couldn't tie that to voting rights or anything else. They couldn't have an official state religion, and I'd agree there. That we can have religious values, but see, you also have to look at it the other way. Freedom of religion doesn't mean freedom from religion. You can still have a prayer in a public school. It doesn't have to be to a particular God or a particular faith, but it's okay. Prayer is still going to be a part of people's lives. Your local government, if an area is 98% Protestant or whatever, and they want to have a Christmas holiday, Christmas festival, that should be okay. It shouldn't have to be a holiday festival. But we've gone so far the other direction because of angry, whining people, atheists and others that feel oppressed by other religions, that instead we have to try to strike it from the public square and hide it, even in like public television, things like that. Instead, we celebrate the commercialized version of the holidays, so the religious one. But it is a way to separate people from their faith and thus make them weaker and easier to control.
Okay, here's the last question I have. Was our country, United States of America, was it founded based on federal governing or state governing?
Well, the states were always supposed to be supreme in most things. They should be the one that were most involved in your life and therefore making the most decisions. The federal government was really just supposed to be there for things that you do need broad powers for. For example, like setting up trade with foreign nations, settling disputes between the states, raising an army at a time of war, and then as an arbiter to protect the values if any of the state governments were stepping on constitutional rights of the citizens. But instead, the federal government has grown over the years to the monster that it's become today. Really, you should have a better relationship with your local elected officials. You should know who your state elected officials are, but most of us don't. Even I don't know who all my elected reps are at the local and the state level. I guess state level, yes, local, no. But anyway, because those should be the people that are most impactful in your life. But instead, everybody wants to look to big daddy government, to the feds to determine everything, and that's not how our system was designed. There's supposed to be laboratories, and today 50 laboratories, where anything outside of the constraints of the Constitution placed on the federal government, those powers were either delegated to the states or left to the people. And that's, unfortunately, we've gotten so far away from that I think that's where a lot of our problems come from today, is the fact that everything is top-down authoritarian rather than being state and local. Yes, there is a place for some federal laws and federal regulations. There are a few things that, like the Constitution, where things do need to be updated. I think the Constitution technically only allows for a federal Navy. We probably do need, some intelligence agencies. We obviously need a modern military, but that still doesn't change the core problem, and that's that we've gotten so far away from our Constitution that we're now living in just a bastardization of that, and it's impacting all of us negatively because the federal government has sucked up so much power from the states and from the people and now claims it as their own.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for answering those. And I would like to just brag for a minute that I did have all of those correctly in my head. I was not making things up, people. Doesn't matter where I come from. Now, with that excitement, one of the main reasons I wanted to get these answers from you, as you know, Michael, we have plenty of people out there, especially our audience right here at Glazov Gang, who love me, support me, they accept me as one of them. But a lot of time, as you know, they're like, oh, you don't know, you didn't grow up here. Oh, you don't know what the law says. So I wanted people to hear it from an American born, raised, Christian, all that. Because here's where I'm going with this. There are a few things that I have come across, and I'll let you give them a better sense of understanding on this. There are undecided voters who are like, well, I mean, yeah, Kamala's really bad, but then, Trump kind of sort of, during COVID, he said the state do it. I mean, he says abortion should be up to the state. And I'm like, well, that's how it should be, though. And they don't get it. So let's take a minute, please take a minute and explain to undecided voters who have reached out to me, telling them why is it even better of a president when he is willing to give the proper power into the states.
Well, yeah, because we want a leader that's willing to respect the authority that we've all delegated to them. we as a nation make a decision who's in charge. Before I forget, though, I want to say something. Like, I think your understanding is probably a lot better than most people's because you've come from something much worse. You now understand what happens here. You've read the Constitution. You've done a lot to educate yourself. In a lot of ways, I think I know you have a much greater appreciation for the freedoms and the rights that we have here as Americans than most Americans do because you know what it's like not to have those. Um, but actually answer the question. So the re the federal government never should have had the authority to make the Roe v. Wade decision to begin with. I mean, technically it went through the courts, but it should have been kicked back to the states to the beginning. I don't see anything in the Constitution, whether you like it or not, on abortion. And
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Are you actually telling me abortion is not a right that is in the
it,
Constitution?
it is not a right. It is not the 28th,
Ah,
29th, or 30th, or any other non-existent amendment. So turning it
imagine
back,
that. Oh,
yeah,
wait, maybe it's the same right. Maybe it's the right next to immigration, huh? Maybe that's where it
right.
comes. Oh, gotcha. Okay, go on.
Yeah, it's the 13th and a half amendment. It's just hard to find. It's in the fine print at the bottom of the Constitution. It's scribbled there. Um, but it- we do want these decisions to go back to the states. And now I know a lot of people are extremely, pro-life. They're the ones that, well, actually, I guess it's the people that want zero abortion or abortions for everyone. Those are the ones that are now like arguing where this decision should be made, whether it's top down or bottom up. Well, it's a lot better to get a partial victory. We know that approximately 37 to 38 states will restrict or eliminate abortion for all but life of the mother, rape cases, things like that. So it's better to take that victory and then fight in the other states than to have it continue to be allowed through the whole country. But this is the problem, though, is I do feel like, and I discussed this the other day. I don't remember what podcast or program I was on, but I feel like the pro-life movement really dropped the ball after Roe was overturned, and that's why we're seeing a lot of what we had now here in Ohio. There's now a permanent right to abortion. They amended the state constitution because I saw zero, nothing, nothing in the mail, no advertisements, one billboard. That's exactly what I saw for uh this law when it was on the ballot here in Ohio. There was no coordinated effort. Now maybe there was some effort somewhere, but I didn't see anything. And that's why you got almost 70% of people voting one way because they were allowed to propagandize things, tie it to things that were not true. But when the other side doesn't speak at all, then it's hard to get them energized to go out and vote. So yeah, we might have a bigger fight on our hands because you're now having to fight 50 battlefields instead of one. But unfortunately, that's the rules. That's the law of the land. These kind of decisions should not be made top down because think about it, like when it went the other direction, or if it continues to go that direction, if you do have laws made at the federal level to permanently enshrine abortion in every state, well, then you have to overturn that. You're going to have a much bigger fight on your hands. Whereas right now you have 50 small battlefields and you can achieve victories. And a lot of those now, we also have to learn incrementalism, which is something the left is very good at, pushing their agenda over time, piece by piece. So go into places like New York, find something sympathetic. First, eliminate abortions at 9 months, or, California. And now apparently there's a 28-day trial period until you can, kill the baby after it's born, or that's something they're trying to push through in law over there. So you can get the little victories first and then incrementally pull things back until you've won. I'd much rather fight that fight than fight things at a national level where they can be flipped on a dime and everything can be upended.
Amen. Okay, we are at the very end of our segment here. President Trump will be in Butler, Pennsylvania tomorrow. I want to personally ask every one of our audience to keep him and everyone and anyone who's attending in their prayers. I don't even have words for his. I mean, it's pretty cool he's doing it. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But we need to keep him in our prayers and the people who are going. So I just wanted to put this at the very end before we wrap up. And is any last words of wisdoms from you, Michael, before we wrap up?
Well, I agree. Pray for President Trump, pray for our country, and pray for this election because I really, it is the most important election in our lifetime, as cliche as that is to say. But I really do believe if it doesn't go our way, President Trump doesn't win, we don't end up with a majority in the House and the Senate, then we will not have a country that 4 more years when we come back for the next election, It's going to be against two deep state establishment candidates, and that's the way it'll be until things finally get bad enough that there is a real rebellion in the country again, and who knows how long that could be.
Very true. Yes, we will continue keeping an eye on what's happening in Middle East. We will keep all innocent people involved in our prayers. However, we need to concentrate on how all of that could possibly affect our election right here in America, and we don't have the luxury of having both ends, in our hands. So I am personally going to pray and do everything in my power in the next 30 days on my programs and right here on the Glazov Gang to help those who have not made up their mind yet to make up their mind and do the right thing. And I just want to say to our Glazov Gang audience, thank you. It's always an honor to be with you guys. As I said, Dr. Jamie Glazov will be back next week, and I'm going to try to come on as much as I can, but yay, you get to have Jamie back. And remember, this is a fan-generated show. We are here when we have been here in about 2 months for 13 years because of you guys. So as always, if you can, go to jamieglazov.com, make a donation of any portion is always appreciated. Don't forget our sponsor, mypillow.com or mystore.com, promo code GG21. And since Jamie would say it, I will say, if you like to follow what I'm doing and support me, liveuptofreedom.com, and Michael Lauber and Derek Evans on the insurrection, Tuesdays, Fridays. You can find them on a Rumble, and then you can follow Michael Lauber as seen on the lower third at Real Mike Lauber on X. Please stay safe, stay vigilant, and I will see you all soon. Goodbye.